Victory Studios in downtown Little Rock, this is Capitol View.
Good Sunday morning to you. Welcome to Capitol View. I'm Jay Burr. He's still fresh off retaining his office. Representative French Hill took some time to catch up with us last week and update us on what Congress could be proposing with a new COVID relief bill.
All right, French, let's just kind of jump into things here. Obviously, the big thing on everybody's mind right now is the next COVID relief bill. When can we expect that? Can we expect that, I guess? And then also, too, what are some of the big things that are going to be involved with the next round, if there is one?
Well, Jay, it's good to be with you. And this week, I think, has been a good news, bad news week for COVID-19 relief. The bad news is that Speaker Pelosi really hasn't changed her view, and she's actually moving a bill this week on marijuana legalization and prohibition of owning big cats instead of working on COVID-19 relief. But the good news is that a group of 50 members in the House have collaborated with a group of bipartisan members in the Senate, and they have proposed a compromise COVID-19 relief bill that's about $900 billion. It extends the unemployment compensation issue and gives some certainty there. It gives our governors flexibility in spending the CARES Act money until September of 2021. This is very important for Governor Hutchinson. It adds money for broadband, adds money for vaccine support and distribution, tracing and testing, a little bit more money for our educational institutions to support their efforts. And very importantly, for our restaurants and our hotels, it extends the Paycheck Protection Program, increases the amount of money, makes the forgiveness easier, and you can have a second loan. You can double dip, if you will, on the Paycheck Protection Program. And it also adds something I think will be very helpful for venues, music venues, theaters that have been really hard hit this year. They have a special grant program for them.
And you mentioned there the CARES Act money going until September. Is that the current, I guess for Arkansas in this case, the current $1.2 billion, or does that actually add anything into that pot?
There is some additional money added to the state and local pot, but the important thing is that flexibility on spending it. So Governor Hutchinson will probably get some more money in education and for general purposes, but the important thing is that his existing CARES Act money, he can now have till September 2021 to spend it. And as you know, he has set aside a significant amount of money, $50 million, I think, for broadband investment. I don't want to say it's impossible to spend that money before 12/31 of 2020, but this gives the governor a lot more flexibility.
Never doubt a governor's ability to be able to spend $50 million, that's for sure. You kind of touched on a little bit the vaccine. From a national standpoint, and then I guess breaking it down here to Arkansas as well, what are we looking at in terms of distribution? What's that going to look like? Obviously, it depends on which vaccine we start rolling out as to how much and some of that sort of rigmarole there. But what are we looking at in terms of how much is going to go to where? Because, all 50 states obviously need some of this in some form or fashion. And you don't want this to turn into, like we saw with the PPE deal, into bidding wars when it comes to the states.
Yeah, boy, that's a very good question. Very perceptive point of view about what we went through in the spring on trying to prep for PPE, personal protective equipment. So here, the federal government with the Defense Logistics Agency, plus those pharmaceutical companies, have worked with the departments of health in all 50 states and the territories on a distribution plan for both those essential workers, those older Americans who are the most vulnerable, and then how to distribute it retail, if you want to think about it that way, through pharmacies and through medical facilities. That's all been outlined. I suspect we'll get the initial doses in Arkansas, maybe 20,000 or so in December, this month. And then we'll get more as it ramps up early in 2021. Second big issue is it's going to be more than one vaccine choice. For example, the Pfizer vaccine's gotten a lot of publicity, but it has to be stored at an extremely low temperature. I mean, 80 below zero or 90 below zero. and it's a 2-dose vaccine, so that creates a logistic issue about storage. But we're going to have the Moderna vaccine and several others, I think, complete their clinical trials and safety testing with the FDA. So Americans are going to have multiple choices in vaccines over the next few weeks.
Now, I know there was a little bit of a hiccup with the Moderna one as well. Are we still seeing that timeline for them still being early next year, or because of some of their data entry and things that they kind of noticed in themselves? Does that kind of push them back? Because I know that's the more inexpensive one. I know some of the smaller countries out there, less developed, are really dependent on that one here, at least in the early stages.
Right, and I do think they're on track. They're continuing to review their data, expand their human trials, and they'll do that to the FDA's satisfaction. You may noted that the Pfizer vaccine was approved by the UK authorities this week, so that's a good step forward. But there are even people working on a capsule, a pill version of a vaccine that are still much earlier stage in their work. But I think this is the world's pharmaceutical innovation at the best. So Operation Warp Speed, kicked off by the Trump administration in February and funded by Congress through the CARES Act, I think is going to produce good results for not only the United States, but for families all around the world.
And we'll kind of get you something off of COVID and all that here, but you had been working on this pretty diligently, this Scipio Jones legislation. Just for some of our viewers, just kind of recap what that was. And I know that was actually signed into law this past week, so you got to be pretty excited about that.
Well, Scipio Jones is one of the great legal scholars and heroes in the history of Arkansas, and one of the great legal minds in our country. Born into slavery, he rose to prominence in the early 20th century. And last year we commemorated the horrible tragedy of the Aladdin massacre of 1919, where it ended up being a terrible, brutal lynching and murders of Black Americans in the Mississippi Delta. Well, 12 black sharecroppers were accused of initiating that race riot, and they were found guilty and convicted of a capital crime. And it was Scipio Jones who got them off that sentence and set the precedent that the federal courts could look at state court decisions, which led the way to a lot more civil rights victories in the future. So we're going to hang a portrait to Scipio Jones at the post office on Main Street in Little Rock, and that post office is named for Scipio Africanus Jones. So to me, it's a great way to commemorate his memory in our state. And I want to thank Brian Mitchell, professor over at UA Little Rock, and John Gill, noted lawyer and historian in Little Rock, for offering this good idea for our community.
And we certainly do appreciate Congressman Hill's time. Well, when we come back, we talk to two freshman state lawmakers, one in the House, one in the Senate, but they have a little bit of a common history. You're watching Capitol View on Sunday morning.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, you need the help of an experienced injury attorney to get all the money you deserve. Call me, Justin Minton. It won't cost you anything to see if I can help.
Come and enjoy a new experience in shopping for your home. At Aladdin Rugs and Home Decor, we have over 5,000 rugs in the latest colors and styles. Bring your pillow shams, and sizes. We will help you select the perfect rug. We're #1 in customer service with 15,000 square feet of rugs, unique home decor, wallpaper, and flooring. Remember, buy today, take it home today, and save. Why wait?
We get it. You had more important things to do. That's why the Black Friday sale at Denver Mattress has been extended. And for a limited time, the more you buy, the more you save. Get $100 off every $1,000 you spend and watch the savings stack up. Or get a $300 Furniture Row gift certificate when you purchase any Tempur-Pedic. Save up to $200 on Rejuvenate adjustable bases, plus 7 years no interest and free shipping. But hurry, the extended Black Friday super sale at Denver Mattress ends soon.
Stepping into the unknown, it can be difficult to find the way. But But with the compassion of the cross and the security of the shield, obstacles become openings. As we have for more than 65 years, we'll continue to light the way, using our knowledge to create new healthcare solutions, giving you the power to shine forward to whatever awaits tomorrow. Arkansas Blue Cross and Blue Shield. Live fearless.
Pick and Pull would like to introduce you to Dr. Cash.
Doctor of everything green.
Because he just recycled his old junk car.
And I got cash.
Call Pick and Pull at 800-956-9577 and we'll give you cash for your junk car.
Just what the doctor ordered.
800-956-9577.
We're watching Capitol View, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Arkansas.
And welcome back into Capitol View. They both had the pleasure, if you will, of serving Lieutenant Governor Tim Griffin's office, and now they're all grown up, and they're out there going to plow their own path in the state legislature. Joining us now, Representative-elect David Ray and Senator-elect Ben Gilmore. Guys, we certainly appreciate the time. I guess just first and foremost, you know, kind of getting out there on your own now, I guess kind of what led to both you guys wanting to sort of get into the fray now? Because you've always kind of been sort of in the background. I mean, still kind of part of the process, but now you're knee-deep in the process.
Well, I decided to run because I think the legislature can always use more people who believe strongly in the principles of limited government, individual liberty, who want to advocate for lower taxes and protecting Arkansas values. So those are things that I hold near and dear and that I hope to advocate for in the legislature.
And I'll second that. You know, when you look at my district, one of the things that I thought was missing for pretty much ever, we've never had a Republican hold this seat that I'm aware of, was a conservative voice. And some of the same principles that David mentions is something that I think people in Southeast Arkansas have been asking for. And so I thought it was the right time and wanted to be that voice. And, you know, and I want to advocate for lower taxes. I think it's very important. And just, again, be a strong voice for the district that hasn't had a conservative voice.
In both you guys coming from Tim Griffin's office, to me, that's just something else altogether. For starters, Tim, he's a character. I guess, what did he tell you guys kind of going through the process? And now that you're actually going to be into the fray here, you know, has he said anything specific of, like, you know, here's kind of how the process works? Not that you guys didn't know how the process works, but, you know, it's just different being actively engaged in it now.
Well, one thing, I think he was obviously very encouraging to me during that process, and he was kind of a voice of reason when I needed, you know, counsel or something when looking at the race and things that you know, we needed to talk about in the campaign and other things. But yeah, I mean, he has a wealth of knowledge. I mean, having served in Congress and now as Lieutenant Governor, certainly knows the Senate well, knows the processes there. So I would say wealth of knowledge, and obviously just a fun guy to be around too. But
well, I would say serving as Lieutenant Governor Griffin's Chief of Staff has definitely helped prepare me for this role. Obviously, in that role, you learn about the legislative process, and that will hopefully help, you know, shorten the learning curve for a freshman legislator like myself. But, you know, the things that I've learned from working for Lieutenant Governor Griffin and also from Senator Tom Cotton is that, you know, a lot of times being a leader means you have to stand on principle. It means you have to do the hard thing, even when the hard thing is not the politically expedient thing. You know, doing the right thing is not necessarily taking the path of least resistance. So that's something that I've admired from both of those men that I've had the opportunity to work for and that I hope to take to our legislature in January.
I just wanted Chief of Staff, right?
Yeah,
he was the Chief of Staff.
He had to work that in, right? I know, Deputy Chief of Staff. So. But to second that, you know, I come from a very unique perspective, kind of like David, having been in the Senate chamber already, as the guy kind of in the back of the room, obviously as a staffer, but getting that experience, that hands-on knowledge of how the process works and building those relationships with fellow senators now was you know, something that you can't put a price tag on. And I come from another staff position of working for Congressman Bruce Westerman, who has, you know, been a strong voice for Southeast Arkansas and the whole 4th District, obviously. So learning from both those guys has really helped me now, I think, and will help me now in this new endeavor.
Now for you, it's a little interesting perspective because now you're still kind of working for Lieutenant Governor Griffin. It's sort of in a weird sense, but you know, now you're a little more on even ground now over there in the Senate side of things. I mean, have you kind of thought about, like, Man, this is a little different now.
Well, I did transition out back in September, but yeah, you're right. It is. I think it's going to be very fun. I think it's going to bring its challenges, but I think also, I have a great relationship with Lieutenant Governor Griffin, and of course, he's a wealth of knowledge that I'll certainly pull from. So I wouldn't say it's too awkward or too weird. I just think it's just. I would count myself fortunate to have that experience.
Yeah, look, the legislature is obviously an independent and equal branch to the executive branch. But I would say that we all share the same goals. Arkansas has supermajorities of Republicans in the legislature. All of our constitutional officers are Republicans, and so we share similar goals in terms of reducing the tax burden in Arkansas, protecting individual freedoms, protecting Arkansas values, those types of things. And so I anticipate we'll all work together well, I hope.
Now, speaking of working together, have you guys already been in cahoots with each other to kind of get something passed? Now, I know it's a little tougher for the freshmen to sort of come in with their bills and be like, we're passing this by Jove. But, have you guys kind of worked on anything yet, or kind of speculating on working on something?
I think we've talked about a few things, but I think where we're going to align a lot is, advocate for lower taxes. Obviously a government that works better for the people. I think that's something we're both going to try to champion. And so I wouldn't say that we've really hashed out anything. Well, we've not filed anything yet, but I assume we will. And I think, again, having the relationship that we've had working together, and we obviously work well together, and we obviously have a lot of the same values and principles. So I think we'll come together and collaborate.
We've had a lot of conversations about policy over the years, both just as friends and also as colleagues. Yeah. I know I'm not just speaking for myself when I say we believe that state government taxes too much and spends too much, and we've got to aggressively improve our business climate in the state.
And lower the overall tax burden.
Yeah, if we want to attract high-quality, good-paying jobs for Arkansans so that the next generation of Arkansans, I've got a 3-year-old daughter and a 1-year-old son, I want them to be able to grow up and get high-quality, good-paying jobs here so they can raise their kids here if they choose to do that. And so we've got to work on things like taxes, on our budget, on regulatory reform, on workforce development, improving education. Those are all big priorities.
And those things that he just mentioned go hand in hand with what we need in my district, which is economic development. And so I think that'll obviously go hand in hand together. But you look at the outcome of my election, I would say it was a mandate for conservatism. People are ready for a conservative voice in Southeast Arkansas that they've not had. So I look forward to bringing some of those values and those principles, working on those, and bringing those back to Southeast Arkansas.
They're already playing off each other. It's like, it's nothing changed. Nothing changed. They're just in different chambers now. And now, is there going to be kind of a little bit of a, sort of a rivalry going here? Because, Ben told me at one point you're in the lower house here, being in the House, and he's in the Senate now, so...
Well, I'm just looking forward to the day when he actually calls me Senator. I'm joking, of course.
Well, all I can say is I'm looking forward to the House and Senate basketball game this year. So we're going to reclaim the title for the House.
That back.
Yeah. I'll probably be on the sidelines. I don't think, I don't think this operates very well in the court.
Oh, you got a presence in the paint, man. We can get you down low.
There you go.
Well, fellas, we certainly do appreciate the time. Best of luck here in this session, and do keep us abreast. We'll do it again.
Absolutely.
Right on. All right, when we come back, we talk with our good friend of the show, Chuck Todd. You're watching Capitol View on Sunday morning.
The pain would shoot up my heels. I would tiptoe out of bed because my heels hurt so badly. When I went to the Good Feet store, I had a free consultation, free fittings. They allowed me to try on the arch supports. I walked around and I started sobbing because I had no pain. There were no gimmicks. It's just try them on. If it doesn't work for you, then don't buy them.
See if they work for you with a free fitting and test walk at the Good Feet store.
Who will be the superior side? Is it the rich, creamy, indulgent classic, the spud-tacular Bob Evans mashed potatoes? Or is it that decadent, divine union of pasta and cheese, Bob Evans mac and cheese? Is it farm-fresh potatoes blended with real milk and butter for that just-like homemade taste? Or is it the melty, gooey goodness of tender elbow macaroni smothered in real cheese? Both are ready in just minutes. Both have the delicious taste Bob Evans is known for. So, which delicious side will you choose?
The Overstock Furniture and Mattress Annual Big Sale, happening now with holiday special offers like large room sectionals starting at $6.99, sofa love seat combos starting at $5.99, dining tables and chairs starting at only $5.99, 5-piece bedroom groups starting at only $6.99, 0% interest and no credit payment options available, kids bunk beds with mattresses starting at only $3.99, and all mattresses store-wide marked down 70%, starting at as little as $2.99. Overstock Furniture and Mattress Annual Big Sale, just in time for the holidays.
Stated Outfitters, in the heart of downtown Benton. Since 2010, we have provided Arkansas with one-of-a-kind original premium vintage clothing. We stay true to our roots, giving you clothing that represents your hometown and helping you show everyone who you are and what you're about. We pride ourselves in being a fully customizable apparel resource. Plus, we've even got everything you need to cheer on your team on game day. Check us out online at statedapparel.com or stop by our new retail location to shop all of your favorite brands.
Attention families, farmers, lake enthusiasts, and entrepreneurs. Don't miss this absolute real estate and farm auction, December 10th and 11th, 10 a.m. in Arkadelphia. This custom Southern Charm home is nestled on 73 private acres with 4 bedrooms, 5 baths, jacuzzi tubs, 4 fireplaces, theater room, new roof, AC units, and kitchen cabinets. And it's turnkey ready. Also selling farm equipment, bass boat, ATV, tools, all household furniture. Everything must go regardless of price. Register at staffordauction.com.
Watching Capitol View, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Arkansas.
And welcome back to Capitol View. He's been gone for a minute, but he's back now. Friend of the show and NBC's Meet the Press moderator, Chuck Todd, here to try to help us make sense of just what is going on out here. I guess the one interesting thing that kind of dropped Friday was the MORE Act. It feels like Congress, or the House at least, kind of snuck that one in. Is this kind of a game changer here when it comes to possibly legalizing cannabis on the federal level?
Well, Jay, let me show you my shocked face that the marijuana vote happens just after the election, not just before the election, right? And look, some of these things that we've seen over the years. No, I remember when they repealed Don't Ask, Don't Tell. It was done in the lame duck session. It was just after the midterm elections in 2010. You know, this was something that generally had majority support, kind of like marijuana legalization does, but at the margins and in different places made politicians nervous about dealing with before voters were going to the polls, right? So the timing doesn't surprise me. Look, it's inevitable. We know where we're going. I will say this. I do think Joe Biden, and you're seeing growing numbers of, I think, Republican senators supportive of this. The House bill is not going to pass the Senate this time. But a rescheduling of marijuana, right now marijuana is basically considered on the same level as heroin. I do think basically having it regulated the way alcohol is regulated is where this is headed on the federal level. And at that point, I wouldn't be surprised if that happens sometime next calendar year.
Should be interesting, especially with President Biden kind of taking the reins now here. Speaking of President-elect Biden, are we kind of to the point now where this is a lot more solidified? Because it seems like President Trump has had zero luck in any of his lawsuits. It doesn't seem like they've brought a lot to the table. They're saying an awful lot, but actually bringing it to the table is a different deal. Where do we stand with the lawsuits? Are we just going to kind of deal with this until Inauguration Day?
Well, it's possible that the Trump campaign keeps sort of filing a few more attempts in different places. That they continue to have bad luck in their lawsuits. Excuse me. I think 30 of the 50 have already been withdrawn or rejected. There's some that are still in the pipelines. Only 1 or 2 right now look like they may get a hearing, and even none of those would impact more than a handful of votes. I think it's 1 in Pennsylvania and 1 in Wisconsin that has gotten is going to get a little bit of a hearing. But I think December 14th, circle that date on your calendar, Jay, because that's when the electors vote, the actual electors in the Electoral College. I think that on that day, you're going to hear someone named Mitch McConnell utter the phrase President-elect Joe Biden, and I think that will take it into sort of another gear where the rest of official Washington on the Republican side acknowledges what's going to happen on January 20th.
Well, that should be interesting here. Interesting show you got coming up this week. You got Dr. Deborah Birx in there. Who else you got coming on?
Yep. We're going to talk a little COVID relief and bipartisanship with Joe Manchin, the Democratic Senator for West Virginia, who, by the way, I think could become, the way Susan Collins was sort of the important swing vote during the Trump years in many ways, the moderate Republican. Well, the centrist Democrat of Joe Manchin could be perhaps the most powerful Democrat in the Biden years, so keep an eye on him.
Absolutely. Well, we will definitely keep an eye on the Meet the Press coming up here in just a few. Chuck Todd from Washington, D.C. Boss, we always appreciate the time.
Thank you, brother.
All right. And we are back to wrap it up. After this, you're watching Capitol View on Sunday morning.
Petite & Keat has the perfect menu and setting for every occasion. We've kept our signature dishes while adding exciting new seasonal favorites from executive chef Jason Reynolds. Whether you're dining out with your family in the Sidewalk Cafe, celebrating a special occasion in the main dining room, or just having a night out with friends on the patio. At Petite & Keat, we make every experience memorable.
Come and enjoy a new experience in shopping for your home. At Aladdin Rugs and Home Decor, we have over 5,000 rugs in the latest colors and styles. Bring your pillow shams, and sizes. We will help you select the perfect rug. We're #1 in customer service with 15,000 square feet of rugs, unique home decor, wallpaper, and flooring. Remember, buy today, take it home today, and save. Why wait?
Watching Capitol View, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Arkansas.
Several bills filed this week for the next session. Here's just a few. Representative Johnny Rye, well, he was busy filing about a half dozen bills, but one of the more interesting ones here is a bill that would adopt daylight savings time permanently. I personally am a big fan of that. Representative Charlene Fight filed a bill to amend the law concerning when lighted lamps are required on certain types of vehicles and vessels. This includes golf carts, and ATVs. State Representative Joe Cloud filed a bill to create the First-Year Medical Student Scholarship Program Act and to create the First-Year Medical Student Scholarship Fund. So a couple things that we'll definitely keep track of once the session gets going. Well, that is going to do it for this week's show. We're back with an all-new Capitol View next week. Make sure you get the Capitol View podcast wherever you enjoy your podcast. Boom, there it is. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.